I would like to acknowledge the traditional custodians of the land on which this episode is being recorded and pay my respects to elders past, present and emerging. I extend that respect to Aboriginal and Torres Strait Islander peoples today. Welcome to Can I Get a Refill? The podcast that offers a nurturing and inspirational space for honest and open discussions around career aspirations, wealth creation, motherhood, healthy relationships with others and the self, as well as an emphasis on physical, mental, and emotional well-being. Join us for lighthearted, authentic chats with like-minded women, as well as more in-depth discussions with industry professionals to support your ambitions and heal old wounds, as we empower you to regularly fill up your own cup. I'm your host, Steph Bruno-Newton, singer, writer, podcast host, mum, and recovering people pleaser. Thank you for pressing play today, and now let's get into the episode. At the beginning of the year, I promised you a series of episodes on female entrepreneurs, and today's episode delivers in spades as I sit down and chat with founder and CEO of The Beauty Chef, Carla Oates. Carla began her career as a fashion stylist before turning her hand to beauty writing. It was during her tenure as a beauty columnist for a national newspaper that Carla began researching natural alternatives to the topical beauty products that were the industry norm. As a child, Carla had experienced firsthand the power of the gut-skin connection when a naturopath helped to overhaul her diet in order to treat her eczema and allergies. It wasn't until her own daughter began to experience similar skin issues that her passion and understanding for how our gut microbiome can influence our health, beauty, and well-being really took off. After implementing a successful gut healing protocol in her own home to help remedy her daughter's skin issues, the profound difference it had on not only her own family's skin, but their overall well-being, after integrating an abundance of probiotic-rich, lacto-fermented whole foods in their daily diet was undeniable. Wanting to explore this even further and bring her research into gut health to a larger audience, Carla began to experiment with fermentation in her own kitchen, using skin and gut-loving superfoods to create the first iteration of Glow, the Beauty Chef's hero product. When Carla first launched Glow in 2009, she pioneered the global ingestible beauty category. Carla has since created a complete inner beauty routine using products that nourish the skin and improve digestive health to cultivate glowing, healthy skin and support overall well-being. Her mantra is beauty begins in the belly. I've always been very inspired by Carla's words, presence and her brand. And I know firsthand, having been part of the Beauty Chef team since 2018, just how much she has positively impacted the lives and well-being of so many of you. I know you're really going to love this episode, and be sure to check out the show notes for links to my personal favourites from the Beauty Chef range. Okay, now let's get into the episode. Hello and welcome back to the Can I Get a Refill podcast. As just promised, we're joined by our most VIP guest to date, founder and CEO of The Beauty Chef, my boss and my friend, Carla Oates. Carla, welcome to the podcast.
Welcome, Steph, for having me. I've been very excited about this and so proud of you. Such an amazing achievement, and I know how many things you're balancing and
and motherhood, podcast work, it's
full-time job.
It's insane. Yeah, it's insane.
You're doing an amazing job.
Well, thank you so much. And as we were just saying, this has been a long time coming. I didn't even ask you to do this. You've been saying, let me jump on the podcast, and I kept delaying you, saying, no, wait till I get a bit more of an audience so I don't waste such a VIP guest. But in actuality, it was more that I was just waiting till I got more comfortable and worked out the kinks. So we've just released episode 25 today. So I feel like I know what I'm doing now that I'm comfortable.
And you are like a tech expert. I'm so impressed by your setup.
Tech is like my weak point. But if there's anything creative around tech, I find a way to figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, okay, let's just jump into it. Today we're going to talk about, gut health because that's your area, but we're going to talk a little about you as a person and your career trajectory as well.
Yeah.
So I always find the most interesting and successful businesses start from a need to create something as a solution to a problem rather than a way to turn a profit. I don't know if you've ever heard of that Simon Sinek book, Start With Why.
Yeah.
So that's what I find. Yeah. I personally love the backstory of how you created the Beauty Chef. Could you kindly talk us through that?
Yeah, for sure. So I think it's been a very organic journey. So really would have started with me having eczema and allergies as a child, as a teenager. And my mum, I used to have cortisone creams, and
Everything was topical.
Everything was topical. So I had open sores on my arms and my legs, and I was always sneezing. So everyone would be like, "Where's Carla? Oh, look at the chain of tissues. Just follow the chain of tissues and you'll be able to find her." And so I'd use the cortisone creams to alleviate some of the...
So was it like an allergy?
So I had lots of allergies.
Okay.
Yeah, so allergies and eczema, of course, are really related.
Right.
And sort of autoimmune, really, like your immune system's overactive.
Yeah.
And so Mum took me to see a naturopath, and she eliminated certain foods from my diet and introduced other foods. And so from a very young age, I saw the connection between what you consume and how that can impact your skin health and your overall well-being. And so then fast forward years later as a beauty editor working for a mainstream newspaper and sent so many different topical products, mass market skincare.
Yeah.
And I was a natural researcher and loved looking at all the ingredients. And I loved looking at them until I actually started researching
what was
them.
in them. Yeah.
And they were potential carcinogens, tetragens, neurotoxins. And of course they're in small amounts, but you just think how many products people were using and the accumulation of those just toxins in our personal care and skincare. But also I knew that looking after your skin holistically was an inside-out job from my own experience. So I went from being really excited from being a beauty editor to really disillusioned with the industry.
Yeah.
And back then as well, it was a very prescriptive mindset around beauty. It was a one-size-fits-all sort of approach. There wasn't diversity.
Yeah.
It wasn't about finding the beauty in an individual. So even philosophically, I didn't like the ingredients in skincare products, didn't really like what the industry stood for. So I decided to quit the newspaper, and I really wanted to help change the paradigm in the beauty industry.
Because it would have felt disingenuous if you're talking about products in a positive light, knowing the health struggles you've gone through and that they don't help.
That's right. And I had a column, and I felt like this responsibility because I had women and men from
What's influence?
Absolutely. And they were writing to me from all over Australia saying, what do you suggest for psoriasis and for acne and for eczema?
And now they're still writing to you via us.
Exactly.
We're answering on your behalf.
Yeah, exactly. And so then I became the beauty editor for Wellbeing magazine. So I wrote for them for like 15 years and did a book for them.
Yeah.
And I got approached by Penguin, and they said, "We love your natural approach to beauty." So in 2002, I wrote Feeding Your Skin, which was all topical recipes that were plant-based. And I was
just going to prompt you and say, I believe there's been a bit of a refresh there.
Yeah, so we re-released it to celebrate the 20th year anniversary.
I bet that feels like it's gone so fast.
It's gone so fast. And then I wrote a column for the Sunday Telegraph for Body and Soul called Do It Yourself Beauty for about 8 years. And then wrote countless articles, became the ambassador for the Biological Farmers of Australia in organic skincare, so really passionate. I'm also the ambassador for Australian Organic, so I guess so close to my heart and really such an organic evolution from wanting to really, I guess, follow what I believed in and pursue that as a career and help change an industry that I thought was really unhealthy at the time.
What I see from your customers is a lot of trust in you, and they're so excited to see if they can talk to you. And another reason is probably because you appear on their TV screens and TVSN, so they feel like they've had you in their home. Yeah. But when people write in and we're reading it, they really trust what you're saying, and I think they've probably followed you from the beginning, so they trust your journey and know that you've walked the walk.
We've got such a beautiful customer base and a lot of customers who have been with me throughout the journey. And then my daughter, who's now 27, but when she was around 10, she also suffered from eczema and allergies. So it's really in my family, it's in my husband's family, he's got eczema and allergies.
My husband does, so I'm watching my son waiting for that.
That's it. So she had the predisposition. And of course, when you get to a certain age, like when she got to sort of 9, 10, 11, it's harder to control what they consume when they go to, their friends' houses. Yeah. Anyway, so she started getting bad allergies, eczema. And so...
No kimchi when you go to sleepovers, Carla.
No, that's exactly right. There's not a lot of kombucha.
Sauerkraut.
On the, and so I did a whole lot of research looking at allergies and eczema. And I stumbled across some interesting research that looked at the connection between certain types of gut bacteria. Yeah. And allergies and eczema. And so from my own experience, I knew that eliminating certain foods like dairy and gluten would be helpful. Not that we had much of that in our house anyway, but also introducing these lacto-fermented probiotic rich foods into her diet.
Yeah.
So I started making coconut kefir, and I started making all different types of fermented combinations, and noticed a really big difference with this kind of gut health focus in our family, with her skin, her gut health, her allergies.
Feeding the gut.
That's it. And also even I noticed that her focus was better at school. And so that was something that was such an organic kind of revelation. And now we know that more and more studies are looking at not just the gut-skin axis, but also the gut-brain axis. So I really noticed that. And then I was giving all my fermented concoctions to friends and family. They also noticed that their tummies felt better. They had more energy, a sense of well-being. And I also noticed in my skin that my skin was looking glowy and radiant and healthy. And so I then basically created Glow Inner Beauty Powder in 2009, released it.
The hero product.
The hero product, it's still the hero product. And had this, from my own experience, really understood and had seen it with my daughter and friends, the connection between gut health and skin health. And that's how it all sort of began.
Yeah, it's a beautiful story. It's very organic, and I saw Jeet, your daughter, posting online the other day when we were doing the launch of Glow 2.0, and she was like, "I'm so proud of you, Mama," because she remembers, being in the kitchen, doing it from scratch, and then just to see it so huge so many years later. It's a really full circle moment, and especially doing the photo shoot with her, it was very full circle. 10 years ago, I feel like no one uttered the words gut health. Now it's growing so much momentum in mainstream society. Why is our gut so important to our overall well-being and the correlation it has with the skin in particular?
Yeah, so when you think about our 70% of our immune system lies in our gut.
Gosh.
It's incredible. It's where we make nutrients, it's where we regulate our hormones, make detoxifying enzymes, neutralise pathogens, make neurotransmitters. And so if any of those things are out of balance, it really can impact how we look and feel. Yeah. We know that there's a bi-directional pathway or an information highway between the gut and the skin. Where there's gut inflammation, there's going to be skin inflammation. Yeah. And that can be we know that, from acne to rosacea, fueled by inflammation, autoimmune skin issues, psoriasis and eczema, also fueled by inflammation, and also even premature aging of the skin, also known as inflammaging. So there's this incredible connection between the gut and the skin, and also we know that the immune system and the skin are also very connected. So knowing it's 70% and our hormones and all those things, how we detoxify,
impacts everything. Even just hearing 70% of your immunity is in your gut makes you want to eat and feed your gut the very best you can.
It's so important, and there's not just a bi-directional highway between, or an axis between your gut and your skin, but also your gut and your brain. 90% of your feel-good hormone serotonin is actually made in your gut, so it can really influence how you feel and your mood. So if you've ever experienced,
mood,
butterflies and, gut instinct, that's your gut-brain axis at work.
Yeah, absolutely. We actually did an episode recently on anxiety, and we're touching on that as well. Yeah. But even just the way you feel, like I will, once or twice a year, you have to get Macca's because you've been out with your friends and it's the only thing open, and you just feel sluggish. I just feel unwell. It's the same as I like to bake. I love to bake, especially as it gets into autumn. This is my baking time of year. But I always try and do, refined sugar-free, gluten-free, and everyone's like, why don't you just do sugar? I said, because I just don't like how I feel when I have it. So I get these, refined sugar-free, gluten-free brownies. And I feel phenomenal after a whole brownie. But if I eat a bite of something that's really processed, I feel it in my body straight away.
I do too. And so for me, it's not even appealing. It's not even, I don't
want
to eat those
No, because you remember how you felt last time.
That's
and you're just
it.
it's like the kid with the hand on the stove. You don't want to go there again.
That's it. And I also think that we've sort of overstimulated our taste buds. And,
well, our parents grew up on meat and 3 veg.
Yeah, that's it. And that's what I grew up on.
Yeah.
And, I look at so many people think we normalise processed foods. We normalise eating junk foods. And
because we're all so busy, everyone's looking for a quick fix.
It. And they're so overstimulating, so much salt, so much sugar, so many sort of, additives in our food.
Yes.
That's what we become used to. So when you actually eat whole foods, a lot of people are like, oh, it's so boring and it doesn't blend. But
you're tasting the food.
You're tasting the nuances of the actual real flavours. So I'm a real foodie. I love my food. And so when anything's too sweet, I don't like it because I can't taste the, a little bit of salt is great, brings out flavour, and a little bit of natural sweetness, but food itself, like I've been growing, I've got two big veggie pods at home.
Do you?
Yeah, I'm obsessed. And I'm not getting commission for the company, by the way. I should, because I can just keep telling everyone about it. But I'm growing strawberries.
Oh.
And the strawberries are so delicious. They're small and
different.
they're so sweet. And I put a strawberry in my mouth and I go, that is a flavour bomb. Like, it is so perfectly balanced.
It tastes different to store-bought.
Yet people, like they'll get strawberries and have to add sugar and all these different things for dessert. It's like, but just eating a strawberry is so delicious. And I'm addicted to feeling good after I eat good food. So, we also have got dopamine.
Yes.
And we know that when we eat well, we exercise, we do all the right things, we get dopamine boosts.
Absolutely.
And I'm into getting good doses of long life, healthy dopamine, not cheap and nasty dopamine.
Yes. Well, it's like getting that really good quality high cocoa dark chocolate.
Yes.
You have one piece and you are so satisfied. If I'm having
So
the sickly
good.
sweet, like the Easter eggs, it's that moreish feeling of I need more, but you just feel sluggish afterward. But like that really good, every time I get my period, I always have to have really good dark
I'm the
chocolate.
same, but dark chocolate increases dopamine.
Yes, 100%.
Yeah.
It's one of those foods.
Yeah.
I always like to strip, when you're talking about the flavours, I like to strip back and do more of a Mediterranean style diet, which is obviously
The best
in my
diet for your
genetics.
gut.
And absolutely.
Yeah.
But they're very little, even on salt and pepper, and it's very big on olive oil and herbs. And when we just do salads and stews with lots of herbs, the flavour is phenomenal.
See, I would love if we could, in Japan, in a lot of schools, they have a nutritionist.
Japan's
And I just go, and I would love to see a focus on how do we educate children to eat better and also understand their relationship with their gut microbiome, which is probably the most important relationship they'll ever have, considering it regulates their skin health, gut health, brain health, immune health, metabolic health.
Yeah, because you were eating foods years ago that just, they're not even food. No. I had a friend that used to get off the station and get a cheese and bacon roll, a can of V and a cigarette, and that was the daily breakfast. And I was like, breakfast of champs. But, I feel like years later, people who have eaten a whole food diet, they glow from the inside out. And when I see you at events, your skin is just luminescent. And I know you always see the people who eat well, they just have a glow.
Oh, that's so
Yeah,
lovely.
like you can do everything you can topically and you can get the facials, but it's so much of it is coming from the gut.
Yeah, you can't replicate the glow that you get when you're healthy from the inside.
And you can
out.
fake things when you're in your 20s and you can get by and you can get by on your 2 hours sleep or whatever. But it's so different now.
But it's so funny because I've got my aunt who's just divine and she actually loves gardening and she's a real foodie and she eats good food, but she loves her unhealthy cakes and pastries.
Yes.
Which is fine. We all have to have our vices.
And she's also probably been in the generation where my mum likes the vanilla slice and the sponge cake, and whereas that doesn't really appeal to me. It was what they grew up with in bakeries,
And so I'll make things and I get really excited and I'll go to her and it's healthy and she's so cute. She's like, please don't tell me it's healthy. It ruins it for me.
When I bring
and
things...
I feel like such a kind of nerd and stickler. I'm like, oh, and I made this. It doesn't taste great and it's healthy. And she's like,
don't say
that.
Don't say it. When I go to like my friends' kids' parties and I bring some sort of cake or dessert, they go, oh, it's not gluten-free or sugar-free, is it? Because they want the real stuff.
I know. And my kids used to always be like, why is everything so healthy? Why do you have to make everything
and now
it's so
they
annoying.
Love it. Do they love it now?
Well, absolutely. My daughter, she's so gorgeous. She used to, at one stage when she was about 13 or 14, she called me an organic freak. And I'm like, you're right, I am.
Did she slam the door after
you
said it?
Probably. And sometimes I look at her fridge now. When I open up her fridge, she lives in LA.
It filters through.
And it makes me laugh because it's everything that I have in my fridge. And I feel like saying to her, you're an organic freak.
Listen, my mum used to go work every Sunday and my dad was in charge of putting food on the table, and I would call my mum crying going, he's force feeding me mineral water with lemon again. Like, he would come down the steps and breakfast would be like a salad with a piece of bread and like really good sourdough bread that he would soak into the juices of the salad and like sparkling mineral water with lemon. And I thought it was just torture, and that is a staple in my house nonstop. Speaking of staples, what food staples are in your kitchen?
I have my veggie pods. So they're like my kitchen staple. So I have every herb growing. So
it's so convenient, and they're
so
also so
convenient.
Expensive. So it's just
That's
great.
it. So if you think about like to increase and improve microbial diversity, which we know microbial diversity is linked with good overall health.
Yes.
And having a variety of different types of herbs and greens and plant foods in your diet. I've got VeggiePod that has every herb growing. I've got...
Well, just to pause you for a moment, can you explain further microbial diversity? Is that giving your body different types of fruits and vegetables, not just having the same things all the time?
Absolutely, because we know that different foods have different compounds that feed different types of bacteria.
Right.
And two, we know that having a microbiome that is diverse and lots of different types of beneficial bacteria and foods that feed all the different types of beneficial bacteria is so important for a healthy gut microbiome.
I'm quite sure we're all lacking because it's very hard if you're like, Al and I are very big meal preppers on a Sunday.
Yeah.
And you'll probably do the whole thing, you know, like we might do like chicken, sweet potato, broccoli, and then Alan's like, I'm buying cabbage. We've got to get, you know, so we're trying to introduce all different vegetables like at least once a week.
Yeah.
But it is hard, and I think a lot of families are probably...
Absolutely.
And it's expensive to buy lots of different fresh produce. So I think a lot of families are not doing that.
Absolutely. Like those little herbs that come in plastic containers, not only it's plastic, which is great for the environment, but you might use a few sprigs and it goes off. And
they do go
it's
off.
like, you know, $6 or whatever for a little punnet.
Yeah.
And so it's so liberating, like in terms of food prep and how do you make it easier when you're busy. I've got this whole big veggie pod that's full of...
Love
so
it.
At any time, so Dalva and I will do a shop and get all of our kind of proteins for the week.
Yeah.
We're also really into fermenting at the moment, so we're fermenting kombucha, we make sauerkraut. So we've got our fermented thing happening. And my husband is thankfully really obsessed at the moment with it. And I'm often really busy with work and, you know, juggling lots of different things. And I love fermenting, but it's a labour of love. So he's gotten really into it, which is brilliant.
You do need time for things like that.
You need time. And it's so worth it because it's meditative, it's really rewarding, it's great for your health. So it's a real investment.
Well, I know a vlogger who had a lot of mental health issues and started baking her own sourdough because she's like, it's just my way when I'm kneading the dough to be in the present moment and keep my hands busy. Yeah, it is. It's meditative. Yeah.
You know, there's in sourdough, there is a type of bacteria that's found in breast milk that has incredible health benefits. Yeah. So, and you know, when we talk about fermentation, so I can eat fermented dairy and I can eat fermented bread. So sourdough, my gut can tolerate, and I can tolerate fermented dairy because fermentation breaks down the hard to digest proteins found in like milk. And therefore...
You've just explained it for me because I get like bloating and gut issues if I have bread. So I went to gluten-free bread. Yeah. But I was always like, people are saying sourdough's good. And I have no issues with sourdough. So, that
a lot of people don't have
it.
issues. And so like they've done studies on milk, for example, and milk is associated with inflammation of the skin, so acne. But fermented milk isn't. So part of the problem is that milk for some people is really hard to digest because of these proteins that are hard to digest, whereas fermentation helps to break those proteins down. One of the many genius aspects of fermentation. Yeah. So going back to what I kind of staple, so I try and... So it's brilliant in terms of being organised. Like I will do my freeze, I always have fresh every week. Hummus, homemade pesto. So those things are really easy that I can put on, you know, a piece of sourdough with, I love goat's cheese.
I love goat's cheese. I love goat everything,
and goat's cheese is actually easier to digest than cow's.
Yeah, well, I drink goat's milk and have goat's cheese for that reason, my son too, he had to have goat's formula. He couldn't handle cow. And I was like, you've developed your mum's insides.
And so I've always got nut butters, lots of vegetables, fruits, coconut yogurt, lots of fermented things. Tempeh is always in my fridge. I love it, which is fermented soy. So soy can be really hard for a lot of people to digest. Tempeh is so good for you.
Yeah, it is. I love making in a lot of diets.
Patties, like I do, like grated zucchini, lots of spices with tempeh grated, and make like patties and put it over a salad.
Oh, yum. It's approaching lunch and I'm getting hungry having this
conversation
I'm really
now. Hungry too. And then, so we'll go out to our garden every night. I just take a bowl and I just do probably around 15 different types of plant food. So I'll have rocket, and I've got different types of lettuces, and I've got English spinach, then I've got chives, fennel, I've got basil,
I love
mint,
fennel.
the whole list goes on. So we have a really beautiful salad from our garden.
The smell at your place must be very fragrant and aromatic because I love the smell of herbs.
Actually, at the moment, it smells a little bit sulfuric, my house, because of the fermented cabbage. And so people come in and it's like...
It's the cabbage.
I'm like, oh, it's the cabbage. Sorry.
Can I ask, with your proteins, do you get grass-fed? I feel like we do. We've had
always
this
grass-fed.
Yeah,
it organic and grass-fed.
Yeah,
absolutely.
we
know that grass-fed meats have anti-inflammatory fats.
Yes.
Whereas grain-fed would have the inflammatory fats.
Yes.
In them. So always try and do grass-fed.
And they're not hard to come by now, and they're not too much more expensive.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you're willing to, it's that one area where Alan and I are willing to invest, like in your health.
That's right.
My dad was always like that. You'd always come home and spend a lot of money on food. That's a very Italian thing.
Yeah.
Because in Italy, food is pleasure. Actually, I remember when you last had your trip to Europe and you were like, I could very easily live on the land in Europe. And then the last time you came back, we were both like, yeah, but I'd probably get bored after like 6 weeks or something. And then I
know. Well, my husband always says that to me because I am an idealist. I just am. I've always been an idealist. And I'm like, I just can, see myself just with a farm and I'll just be harvesting all day and planting. And he looks at me, he's like, you're just such an idealist. You're such a romantic. He's like...
2 months later,
he's like, you're such a projects person.
Yes!
You get so bored. But that in itself is a project. I just love it. I love projects.
But the balance. We all just need a holiday house in Sardinia or something where we can go do that.
Even
or Croatia.
Even the South Coast.
Yeah.
Australia is so beautiful.
Actually, can I divert and ask you, many years ago you mentioned something about the soil being over-farmed, that we might not necessarily be getting the nutrients from the soil, like from our foods that grow in the soil, like our parents' generation.
Absolutely. Because soils that are over-farmed, you're missing really critical minerals.
What can we do to counteract that?
So I guess making sure that we're getting, minerals in sea salt, and also minerals from our food. For example, selenium is a mineral that is really deficient in our soils.
Yeah, Brazil nuts, I think.
Yeah, so having like 4 Brazil nuts a day. So selenium is so important to support a healthy immune system. There's great studies on it for immunity, but also skin health. It's really important.
Yes. I believe in ingredient
hair health.
Antioxidant boost too.
Absolutely.
Yes.
and also our hair formula.
Yes.
Put the selenium in it.
Awesome. Great. Okay, that's good to hear because that kind of freaks me out. Like, oh my God, like it's not even healthy, like eating vegetables because the soil's so over-farmed.
Well, I guess it's just trying to find that balance of, where possible eat organic. When I was...
Well, the world's always evolving, so you just got to find ways where you can...
That's right. And I'm a big believer in doing blood tests to see where you're lacking, and a lot of people don't do that.
No, and anytime I have someone on like nutritionist, naturopath, they're always saying that because there is no one size fits all. You can't watch a vlogger and say, well, she's taking that vitamin, I'm going to buy it. Yeah. You might have something completely different. I know you tend to get... Do you get high iron? I think you mentioned...
I've got hemochromatosis, but I've got a strange iron, so I have low ferritin, but high saturation.
Right.
So it's a very strange, because a lot of people have high ferritin and they can be bled.
Yes.
Whereas I have the opposite. So often I have really low ferritin, but if I take an iron supplement, my saturation goes up,
That's
which is
exactly
not great.
it. So people might just go to the store, buy iron supplements, and it might not be right for them.
Well, they might, if they have a gene like me.
Yeah.
So I just control it. I have blood tests every 6 months, and I just because I want to keep my saturation down, because we know iron is a pro-oxidant in the body. If body stores it. So I try and keep it so it's just below. It's still high, but it's in the high normal.
Yeah.
And I don't, so I have to be really careful, because sometimes also when I get my period, my iron gets really low, because it goes to about 13 or 14, and it generally...
That's what mine goes to.
Yeah, and mine generally sits at about 18, 19, but it goes really low. Okay. And so I kind of go, I'll have some red meat and some spinach and, do the whole iron vitamin C thing together. And I just go, if my saturation goes up a little bit, it's fine. But I really monitor it. It's one of those things, we've all got something that we have to just kind of be mindful
of. And iron's just always affecting women because of our cycles so much more. So,
that's it. But it's true. It's like having those blood tests are really important. And a lot of practitioners will say that disease starts with a deficiency in a micronutrient. Because if you think about...
Say that again.
So disease starts with a deficiency in a micronutrient, because they all work together. So you think about magnesium. It's involved in something like 3,000 enzymatic processes in your body.
Yeah. So I cannot get enough magnesium.
Yeah, I love it.
It's the one thing I will never skip.
I love it. Yeah, I love it. So I take magnesium glycinate every single night.
Yeah.
Like it's just great for my sleep and great just for, relaxation. It's such an important mineral for everyone's health and well-being.
Yeah.
So getting blood tests and you also a lot of people, B12 is so important.
Yeah.
And for your health.
And that affects energy.
Absolutely, nervous system. And just a lot of my friends will show me, not that I'm not a doctor, but they know that I'm really interested in it and they'll show me their blood tests and I'm like, your B12 is really low.
Yeah.
We need to make sure that we are, all of our levels are maintained of our micro and macronutrients.
Yeah.
And a lot of, integrative practitioners will do that.
Yeah.
GPs might just do your basic blood tests, but that's why going to see someone who's more integrative.
I've always just had more of long-term solutions when I go to people like that rather than a GP. And I believe in a balance of Western and Eastern, and I do everything I can to make myself feel well. But it's definitely they're researching you as an individual, and but you look at the time that GPs have too. You got to get in and out within about 7 minutes, so they don't really have the time to dedicate to you personally. Whereas you could be with a naturopath for an hour and a half. Yeah,
I love seeing a naturopath because we just always end up on talking.
You would just chat for 2 hours.
Oh, just chat. We just end up chatting about everything
because it's your interest. This is probably no secret that's no mystery that I've ended up at this company. I'm just so interested. And when we're talking, about new products that are coming, I'm always asking so many questions, but not from a perspective for the customer. I'm really asking for myself because I'm so interested. What can I take now?
I studied naturopathy in my 20s.
Yeah.
But I had a full-time job, 2 babies. I had my babies when I was young.
Yeah.
And studying naturopathy and something had to give.
Yeah.
But it's something.
I know what that's like, Carla.
Yeah, I know. And then I did a few more subjects in my 30s. But again, I was just being realistic around that balance.
Yeah.
And what I've ended up doing, I feel like I've done 10 degrees anyway through all my research and writing books and, creating products.
It's still knowledge.
But, there was always that part of me that would have loved to have been a practitioner.
Yeah.
Because I love helping people.
It's your interest.
And that one-on-one is always, and as I said, I love looking at people's blood tests and,
But you still are in an indirect way.
Absolutely.
And so you're probably impacting a lot more people than you would if you were a practitioner. I want to divert from gut health for a moment to talk about your personal journey. Could you tell us what was your first job and what was your worst job? You probably haven't had any bad jobs. I've got a collection.
It's really interesting. I've always had a really strong work ethic.
Yeah.
So I got 2 jobs when I was 13. And actually, I had a job at a hairdressing salon.
Did you?
Working on Saturdays, washing people's...
Oh, really?
Sweeping hair and washing people's hair.
Yeah.
And then I had a job on Sundays working at a cafe called the Wet Bar down at Bondi Beach, down at Campbell Parade.
Wow, when you were 13?
13. I was terrible at both jobs. So bad. And I still remember the hairdressing salon, and they had these gorgeous older ladies who had lots of makeup on their face.
Yes.
And they used to
Which was the thing back then, and the strong perfume and the perms and the thick stockings.
That's it. And they used to say to me, please do not upset my makeup line when you wash my hair. But I was so clumsy, and I used to be so careful, try to be so careful, and they used to get so annoyed at me because I'd have these lines like this, and then I'd get water all over their faces. I just couldn't control the water.
Yeah. No one wants the junior in the basin washing their hair. You always want the more senior person with a good scalp massage.
That's it. And I always just felt so terrible because I always got water all over their face and mucked up their makeup. So, and then I worked at a waitressing cafe because I loved fashion when I was a teenager, and I liked the expensive brands. So I used to go to a second-hand store that used to have designer clothes. So I wanted to save for my own clothes. So I'd go and buy a Gautier. So I worked Saturday, Sunday, so I could go and buy, and I loved Zambezi, which was, I don't know if you remember that brand, but it was a brand, I think it's a New Zealand brand. I don't know if they're still around, maybe in New Zealand.
Okay.
And they had the most beautiful clothes. And so I would go into this, either Zambezi or a second-hand clothing store and buy 1 or 2 pieces.
I remember vividly you telling me this about 7 years ago.
Yeah, so I loved really beautiful kind of high fashion.
Yeah.
And so all my girlfriends were like, why are you working all weekend? And I always did it. I was like, because I need to earn my own money so I can buy my own things. And so I think they were my first jobs. And I think probably the worst job, I had a job in an RSL club. I
can't even see you in an RSL club.
And it was a restaurant that served really bad food. I was waitressing, and I can't remember, I was 16 or 17.
Yeah.
And they had big, huge stainless steel pots of this thick, disgusting gravy. that every night they just reheat.
Oh.
And then they carelessly just throw it over people's meat and schnitzel, and I just
it's so far from the beauty
turns
chef.
my stomach thinking about it now. I don't think I had that job for very long.
We
I was
all
just
need those jobs to look back on in hindsight and laugh. I've had so many jobs where I've lasted 5 years or something, and then so many jobs where I've lasted 2 weeks, or somewhere I didn't come back at lunch.
Yeah, I know. And then when you're that age, like for me, you just I did any job just so I could earn money and buy the things that I wanted.
Oh, I hear you. I've sometimes worked 3 jobs 7 days a week just to get on top of things.
Yeah.
So you can't sustain it for a long period of time.
That's right. But when you're young, I used to do all sorts of strange and interesting jobs.
Yeah. It's good to look back on. I actually like that. You get really reminiscent when you look
back. It also
back
keeps you grounded. Like, you know.
Well, this is.
I think,
I was just saying
I was so unprecious because I started washing people's hair when I was 13.
But I think it's a really important thing for anyone to do, and I think that's probably one reason why child stars struggle so much. Like they're exposed to too much, but they probably just haven't had that real life experiences. I used to say this many years ago about someone like the Hilton sisters. Yeah. They just haven't experienced parts of life when you've had to have those jobs and pay for your own little pocket money. So it's...
And that incredible feeling, like I used to just get where I used to go to Zambezi and buy myself, you know, still got these hand-painted shorts that that I bought there that was so beautiful.
Yeah, because when you're investing in less but high quality pieces, fast fashion is the problem of the world at the moment, the environment especially. Yeah. Did you used to do, my first job was Best and Less at Hurstville, and I remember counting, when I started in 1998, there was no direct debit into your account. It was a yellow envelope. Your payslip was a yellow envelope. And I remember it was $5 an hour. But I remember always calculating before I bought something of how many hours did I have to stand at that register to afford this. And then I had to determine if it was worth it. Yes, it really does, doesn't it? Yeah.
I mean, I think kids working is really important.
It's very important, and helping out in the house, and I'm hearing that. So when I do chores, like I don't let Leo watch TV. If we've got it on and he looks at it, so be it. But someone said to me, a midwife, and she's a family educator, that children love to watch you, and they actually can't distinguish the difference between housework and games. They think it's all part. He was on the floor dragging the mop around the other day. I was like, go for gold. Like, it wasn't productive, but he's interested. And every time I go to get, the laundry or something, I'm holding him and I'm like, okay, now we're going to put this in the dryer because it's a little bit damp. And he's so curious. But
I love how you've got Leo doing.
Yeah, and it's really important.
It's so important. And kids are really capable. Children are so capable.
And they've got a lot more energy than us. They want to pitch
Absolutely.
in.
And it's so good for their self-esteem.
Yes, I actually read a study on that.
Building
it actually
confidence.
does build their confidence and self-esteem.
Because it's basically saying, yeah, you can do that. I believe that you can do that.
Yes, when you prevent them from doing things, oh, not that way, Mummy will do it. It actually makes them think that they don't trust in their abilities.
That's exactly right.
So it can make them more autonomous, and they'll be greater leaders in the workplace.
Yes, absolutely.
I would like to touch on the culture in your home for a moment. Yeah. You own a successful wellness company. Your daughter is a model, living and working in LA. Your son is winning ARIA awards and touring all over the world on one of the most successful bands on the scene at the moment. What did you... And your husband is also quite creative as well, so I'm not going to leave him out. Yeah. What did you do in your home to cultivate and foster such creativity?
So I think when I look back when the kids were younger, we always... For me, having a creative outlet is super important. Like, I think everyone... And when people tell me they're not creative, I always go... Oh,
they just haven't found it yet.
Yeah, or you weren't encouraged in your household maybe because your parents didn't think they were creative. Everyone is creative.
Yeah.
And I truly believe that, learning an instrument, drawing, writing a diary, any sort of form of creative making things is so important. And it's whether you do it professionally
or a hobby
or it is just another incredible skill to have as a way to de-stress. Like we know that having a creative outlet is so important for relieving stress. Study shot's really important for cognitive function.
Yes.
It's also really good for thinking outside the box and for throughout life when you come against something really challenging, you're more resilient because you're able to think about it differently. And creativity really is problem solving in so many ways.
Yeah.
It's thinking about things differently. And so I guess I was always encouraging them to draw. I played a bit of guitar. I had a band when I was in my early 20s. Yes.
There's something we've never discussed.
Yes.
What kind of music was that?
It was...
hang on. I'm thinking either Fleetwood Mac style or...
It was someone likened it to a band called Belly, which was Kim Deal from the Breeders, one of her bands. I was very happy about that when we played. And they were like, they remind us of Belly. And so we've always had guitars around the house. My husband's had a band on and off. Yeah. So we've always had instruments, always encouraging them to draw. I love the fact that, my daughter she was really musical, but she kind of dropped it. I didn't really kind of force her to do it. Whereas Otis, there was guitars around the house, and he was predominantly self-taught. Like, we taught him a few cowboy chords when he was little. He did guitar maybe for 6 months or something, but always singing. Always.
Oh, yeah, I feel that.
Always. It's like hilarious. And, my husband's a bit like that. He's always singing.
I remember we had 2 garages, and Mum converted the second one into a ballet studio with the bar so I could practice ballet, and I would go out there and within 3 minutes I would press stop on the tape and just sing for 2-3 hours because it was my outlet. And to this day, especially in my teens, if I'm going through something, I'm like, I just need to go in that room and have a good sing. It is the best outlet for me. It even clears the throat chakra. There's actually there's a lot of benefits around using the voice.
Absolutely. And even drawing, we know that how good that is for relieving stress. And gratitude journal, so writing down how you feel. We know how my daughter was in Sydney because she lives in LA, and she was in Sydney over Christmas for 2 months, and she was just had some things going on and in her relationship, and she was writing her gratitude diary. Yeah. And that made me feel so happy. And then she was drawing. Yeah. And once she does that, she just feels so much more grounded and happy. And that for her is... Absolutely. It's a form of therapy, catharsis.
It is. But I think you've also answered why they're so successful as well, because gratitude is part of the pathway to attracting more success to you. It's the universe recognizing that you're grateful for something good in your life, so let's send more. So I'm not surprised at all. Absolutely. It's funny you mentioned you use a gratitude journal yourself, or just G?
I'd liked. I have
because I had my hand on one on the weekend to buy you as a thank you gift, and I was like, Alan, I'm not sure if she would write in this, so I went with something different. So that's funny.
Well, I love my daughter, and it's what's so beautiful is when you start to learn from your kids.
Oh, yeah.
And my kids really inspire me in so many things that they do. And I'm so proud of them. And watching Jeet write and she's really disciplined about it. She writes it every single day. That really inspired me. And I have times where I'll write in diaries, but I'm not consistent with it, whereas she is really disciplined, and consistency is key.
It is, but I also don't think you want to make it a chore. I think it's also good to, when you're feeling it, go and do it. So that's why for me, if it's not first thing in the morning, I don't do it, because then I get, daily stresses happen, and then I feel like, I've got to make it a chore. When I wake up and the birds are chirping and the sun's coming in, it's just and no one's awake yet, it's that beautiful moment to do it then. Yeah. But you don't have to make it a chore. You do it when you feel something.
Yeah, absolutely. And, and I think back to the other thing is work ethic. I think the kids, and it's not something that I thought about, I want to teach my kids good work ethic.
Yeah.
It's just I have a good work ethic. My husband has a really good work ethic. And they've seen that. And so kids observe.
You've set a good example. Kids observe all the time.
And sometimes they have said to me, they have said to me in the past, you work too much, we don't want to work with you. And then sometimes I look at them and go, well, that's what you're doing. And I do believe finding balance is so important.
It's very important.
And your work is really important. But it's easy for me because I love what I do. So often it doesn't feel like work. I mean, of course it does. No, we all have to do things that we don't love.
I know it doesn't.
I have a creative job, but I'm also the CEO, so there's a whole lot of admin kind of
day-to-day tasks are always hard, but I know exactly what you mean, because when I was on maternity leave, I was doing this podcast, and I'm just sitting there at 2 a.m. with a baby asleep on my thing, editing podcasts. It did not feel like work to me. That was my outlet, and that's what really got me through feeling myself through maternity leave. I didn't feel like I changed too much because I had something that was my outlet. That's funny when you were talking about your kids. One of the questions I was going to ask, but I didn't end up putting it on the list, was what do you want your legacy to be? And it's really funny you say that because I was thinking last night in the shower, which is where I always do my thinking because there's no ambient noise. What would I want my legacy to be? Or, you know what I think? I want to make people feel something. That's definitely my thing. I feel like that's my gift, to make people feel something, put some sort of, sparkle in their day. But with my kids, I really want them to think that I'm tenacious. I just feel like I want them to go, oh, my mum did this and my mum did that, because I like to think that's just something I had since I was really, really little.
Yeah.
And I don't know if it was something, like, my parents definitely encouraged it, but I don't think they pushed it or supported it. I just think that was something that was my thing. And to this day, I cannot have my hands still. I have to have them doing something, and you're very much the same.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. So I think it would be probably kindness as well. Kindness is so important, but kind to themselves. Yeah. And kind to others. So I think strength,
that's what the
strength
world
and
needs.
kindness.
Yeah, strength and kindness.
Strength and kindness.
I like that. Yeah, strength, absolutely. Yeah. Who has been your biggest inspiration?
There's quite a few people actually. Like, I think my mum was amazing.
I was going to say to you, I'm going to guess, and I 100% knew you were going to say your mum.
My mum was amazing. So she was very creative. She worked hard for us as well. She always, when we were younger, my sister and I went to school up the road, and we used to have to let ourselves in after school because mum was working. Yeah. And so she worked hard, but she always had time for us. She was so caring and a very kind and beautiful person. Didn't have, she was never talking about other people in a bad way. So I didn't grow up with that. And I've always found bitchiness very difficult because
I can't be around it. It makes me, I'm such an empath that it makes me feel drained down to zero.
Absolutely.
Yeah. And I didn't realise that until I got older. That's what was bothering me when I would be in those circles.
Absolutely. And so mum just never bitched about people. She was...
But what a lovely legacy she's left, because every time you mention her, your face changes and you speak about her in such a beautiful light. So I imagine she was the type of person
She
like that.
was so beautiful. And so she taught me about kindness. She also taught me about unconditional love. She gave my sister and I, complete unconditional love. And I think that in life you have to have someone who has your back unconditionally. So I always say to my kids, no matter what, I have your back, no matter what. And I do. No matter, they could tell me anything. Yeah. I will always be there to have their back. And I hope and wish for everybody that they have someone like that in their lives. And that's something that you're very blessed if you have someone that can give you that.
Well, you are. And usually when you're seeing people who are struggling with addiction and substance abuse, that's usually because they don't. Yeah. Yeah. And it hurts.
Yeah. And then they have to find that for themselves. They have to be that person for themselves, which they can.
Yeah.
So
it's a journey.
And that's, and that is, it's, so she was incredible. And, she started a business, and even lots of my friends don't know this, but I still remember Mum and we didn't have a lot of money when we were kids, when we were younger. And Dad was...
But you don't care when you're a kid, do you?
No. And Dad was working full time, and Mum had two, young children. And she used to make bread baskets. So she used to sell them to a little boutique in Wallara.
I love that.
And I still remember, watching her, and I couldn't quite reach the bench top, but and she used to make bread dough, and then she'd cut it into strips, and she'd plait it, and then she'd put it over a basket, and then she'd bake it and paint it and glaze it. And there'd be these bread baskets. They were so beautiful.
That is so beautiful.
And that's how she earned extra money to bring into the household. And it was so creative. And I used to go with her to the boutique in Wallara when she'd sell them to the shops.
I didn't realise how similar we were. My mum used to make craft because my dad would be working, he would leave at 7 a.m, come home at 7 p.m. We had two kids. I was one of two. And Mum wasn't working until I was a bit bigger and had to pay for dance fees. But she used to make craft and go sell it at a craft store in Cogra, and I used to go with her, and I still pass it when I'm on the train. That is so funny.
It's so And you absorb those things.
You do.
So me watching you absorb. So
Kids are watching everything.
They are. And then I think my auntie, so my mum's best friend, who's her first cousin, who I always called my auntie.
Yeah.
She's incredible. And she and I are incredibly close.
Oh, that's lovely.
And she's so strong. She's always been into gardening. She had an incredible job working for not-for-profit, incredibly philanthropic, really smart. She's like 80 now and, you know, still will jump into the ocean with me.
Oh, I love it.
And still, like, paints. She's really artistic and really clever and got a really great sense of the world, very grounded,
Which
very open-minded.
The creativity probably added to that.
Yeah. And so lots of people, and then there's people who are very removed from me, like women who I just think are incredible, who followed their passions, like your, you know, Patti Smiths, Jane Goodall, like women who are activists and artists who follow their heart. And
Women especially, because they would have come up against more challenges, having a voice. And
absolutely.
Yeah, I love that. I really love the way you described your mum too, where you're saying she was so busy but always made time for us. And I bet when you had children, you realised that that didn't come so easily. You had to make the time.
Yeah.
And that's what... It's the only time... I haven't cried much since I gave birth. I haven't been that hormonal, but the only time I do cry is if I feel that guilt of... I'm not sitting and spending the time with you that I want to. And I'm like, just so you know, Mummy's working really hard so that one day we get to a place where I can spend a lot more time with you. And you know, so whenever we're together, the three of us, I'm like, no, Alan, no video games. We're going for a walk in the mangroves. And we're going, you know, like I want to make the most of that family time together because he's growing so quickly that these are core memories. He can't wait. He can't pause until we have time off. It has to happen now. So,
but also, you doing what you love makes you feel happy and fulfilled. And I actually think that children, if their mum and dad are happy, they are happy.
The name of this podcast is Can I Get a Refill? It's about filling up your cup before you pour into others. And I am a better wife and mum and friend and daughter when I do things for me that make me feel filled up.
So important.
Yeah.
And then Leo will observe that. And
Absolutely.
just go, like, you know, just go, my mum's so fulfilled and happy, and that makes me...
You should see his face when I sing musicals to him. There's no wiggles in our house. I just play the divas on musicals.
And the other thing is, you know, as a parent, none of us are perfect.
You're not.
And we're all going to make mistakes, and you can't be... But at the end of the day, you know, I always look back, I did the best I could with what I knew at the time.
Carla,
and I do.
We're all doing what we can with the tools in our toolkit. And anyone in the past who's hurt you, I'm very big on forgiveness because they were doing what, you know, the best they could with the tools in their toolkit, and they didn't know. You didn't know what you didn't know. And, you know, Maya Angelou always says, when you know better, you do better. So I'm very big on that forgiveness and letting things go. And there's a real disgusting thing in like culture in the mum world thing online where mums judging other mums, and I won't have it. Anyone makes comments on my thing, it will be deleted. I will block. I'm not engaging in that because I'm a great mum. Leo's a happy kid. I'm doing the very best. And sometimes it's a matter of, it's just different taste. Your taste is to parent this way. My taste is to parent this way.
That's it. And guilt is not like helpful at all.
Not helpful.
And
we're so doing the best we can to survive as mums.
And people look at me and go, oh my, you know, in the past, how have you done it? You've done this and you've done that. And it's like, I don't want to be built up to be, because I've had my struggles and finding balance is so hard. And I've had my mother guilt, and then you work guilt because you feel like you're torn between. So I think it's really important that, you know, we are understanding of everybody's journey and we're not hard on ourselves.
Absolutely.
And that even when other people's lives look perfect, it's never perfect. We're human. Life is non-linear. It's complex. It can be tricky.
It is.
It's also how you show up for yourself. And how you show up for others that are so important. But showing up for yourself and backing yourself is the number one, I think, most important thing.
Totally agree.
And what you can focus on is, what can I do?
Because if everything is figure-outable.
And what can I do to help me more? But then that's going to help everybody and make that a priority.
But this is why balance is so important and so key, because it's taking those little pockets of time to yourself to switch off. You know, anytime Alan and I have gone away for 3 days to a little remote place where there's no reception, and we're just, it's just that refresher I need, you know, because it's like, it's not a bad day. It's not a bad life. It's just, I might be PMSing. I might just be sleep deprived. I might just, where they say when you're upset about something, don't quit, just rest. Yeah. Sometimes you just need to switch off to recalibrate.
Yeah. And I always say, and this is about creativity, whenever you're confused, make form.
Yes.
So I always have said, to my kids, when you're confused, do something.
Yes.
Draw a picture.
Yeah, I love that.
Play a guitar. Go and plant a plant.
Yeah.
Like make form, make something. And honestly, 99.9% of the time you feel better. Because also creativity is a way you really connect to yourself.
Yeah.
And when you make something, make a cake. If you love baking, just go and do something. Yep. And then it's a distraction from where you are. And that just by doing something that's creative and, an outlet, you're relieving stress.
Yes.
You're creating more self-esteem because you're, connecting with yourself. And you go, oh, wow, look what I just made or look what I just did.
So true. Yeah, and we just don't allow ourselves that time enough as adults. Like as kids, you're always making shapes with Play-Doh. And I used to make entire doll's houses with furniture out of... remember Franklin's? Do you remember Franklin's?
Oh, yeah.
Yeah. There was no Coles and Woolies where you'd get your meat from the meat store.
I used to go to Franklin's all the time.
Yeah, we would go to Franklin's and they would have this plasticine that was in all different coloured strips.
I love
And I remember when we used to do family holidays to Italy, Mum would buy me heaps I would get very travel sick. And that was my thing on the plane, on the tray table. I would come back with shoe boxes of complete furniture made from these little plasticine things. I almost wish I saved some of them. But it was my outlet and I'm still creative. And it's not that I wanted to turn it into a career. It's just, it's an outlet.
Absolutely.
Yeah, it's very important, creativity.
And even people when they say, but I'm not a very good drawer, I'm not... But if you enjoy it, it just doesn't matter. And the thing is, you get better and better and better. And that's not the point.
Yeah.
It's about actually getting it out.
Oh, I totally agree. I went to one of those sip and paint things with friends and they were the top of the class in art. And they're fully correcting me. And I was like, I don't think you get it. I don't give a shit. I'm drinking Verve and painting a thing. I'm just happy to be painting. Yeah. I know it doesn't look good. It didn't matter about the product. It was the process.
That's it. I've done courses with weaving. I've done courses with making clay. Not particularly good at it.
Yeah.
But I remember my sister and I did a weaving course together in Robertson down south. And I was so into it. And it's catharsis, right? It's like meditation. And I'm focused on it. And didn't think about anything at work or any other kind of things going on. I was just so... And my sister's like, let's go have a lunch break. I'm like, no. I'm so into this. I'm just in this kind of meditative zone. And it was what I did. It was very average.
Yeah.
But the process was just like, oh my God, that felt so good.
It's the process. When I was in high school, a friend had some depression and mental health issues and she took up knitting. And we would sit in the sun at a cafe in Newtown and knit when we were 15. But it was just so relaxing. Yeah. I'm still knitting the same scarf from the 90s. It's the act.
And I think there's something about doing something with your hands as well.
Always.
And connecting with your brain. And so,
But that's what's the problem now is that you scroll. So you sit and watch TV, and so now if I sit and watch TV or movie or something with Alan, I'll bring out the knitting and put the phone in the bathroom on charge because if the phone's there, I will scroll, and that's when I do online shopping and spend all my money. So it's a
well, there's nothing wrong with a little bit of shopping therapy occasionally,
Well, that's stuff you need. All right, I would like to finish with a very important question that I love asking, especially female entrepreneurs, and especially when you're over 40 is who I like to ask the most because you've seen things, and I am loving my 40s personally much more. I thought 30s were going to be the best, but even 40s I'm loving because I'm just seeing things in a very calmer, different light, and I like to look back and sort of reminisce.
Do you care less what people think?
Every day, less and less. And I feel like that's what, even here, all the younger girls come to me, and I feel like that's my gift is to tell them, the little things. Do you know what women do a lot? Every woman in my life over-explains. So when someone invites you to something and you can't go, every woman I know does text this long to explain why they can't go, and Alan will just be like, sorry, can't make it. And women over-explain because we're sort of conditioned to be people pleasers, and then you get guilt that you've let someone down. So anytime, the girls who are like, someone's upset, I'm like, just say, thank you for the invite. Hope you have a great day. I can't attend. You don't owe people explanations, and less. Yeah. And I'm very big on boundaries and very big on taking a step back. And I'll have lots of guests where they're like, oh, it's a bit rude, but sometimes you can't be around people. I'm like, that's not rude. That's survival. It's less and less. I care what people think, but more and more I know me and I'm getting to know myself, and it's a really lovely journey finding yourself. So, but it's been, I think it started around 27, 28 and it just evolves over time. It
does.
And
it's so good, and you just get more, you just realise what really matters as you
yes,
get older.
Yes.
And you get more comfortable in your skin.
It's a nice feeling. All right, I had more energy back then, but I love
it's a really nice
that
feeling.
comfortable in your skin feeling.
Yeah.
It's very special. It is very special. If you met your 18-year-old self,
yes,
what would you tell her?
I would tell her to look after your gut.
Yes.
Be gutsy and follow your gut instinct.
Oh, I love it. I have no more to say. Enter there. That is so perfect. Spot on. Carla, thank you so much. As I said, you didn't have to do this today in your very busy schedule. So.
I am very proud of you, Steph. Like, what you're doing is amazing. I'm very impressed. And, this is your incredible creative, but also it's a professional outlet, and you're pursuing something that you love, and that's just, and to support that is amazing.
Well, what feels special to me about this is that I didn't have a voice for so long, and this has been my way of finding a voice. But what touches me is when I'm seeing people messaging me saying, you were my motivation to do this and have these boundaries, and I almost feel like I've given them permission to stand up for themselves, and that I can't think of anything more special. And I think that's, I've been through the trials and tribulations for a reason, is to pass the wisdom on. So it's
it's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, I'm so grateful to have you here today. I love everything that you do, and you've really just had such a positive impact on the community and on me as an individual. So thank you so much for your time today.
Thank you, darling.
There is no resource more valuable than time, and I thank you for spending your time with us today. Your voice is so important, and we would love to hear which topics you would like discussed in future episodes. Please reach out by Instagram at Can I Get a Refill Podcast, or on our private Facebook group to let us know. If you enjoyed this or previous episodes, we would be so grateful if you could please subscribe, rate, and review to help our voices continue to be heard. Catch you in the next episode.